Welcome and thank you for coming out to our second You Behind WashU series. Our first one was back in November, and this came about from a conversation we had last spring from the Voices in the Room, and last summer in August, myself, which is Jackie Carter, I'm the chair of DIF, Cheryl Holland, Alfreda Brown, and Mark got together and we came up with the You Behind WashU. And Mark is our second speaker from the day. He is the Associate Vice Chancellor and Director of the Career Center. He has been the Dean for 14 years of Student Affairs in Washington University School of Law. He has taught courses in the School of Law, School of Engineering, and he has received an executive MBA from Olin School of Business. Mark graduated cum laude from Harvard University in 1982. And fortunately for us, and maybe unfortunately for Mark, when he ran for the 2004 Democratic nominee, he did not win, so we have him. And so now I turn it over to Mark.
Thank you.
Oh, one more thing. After we conclude, Mark concludes, go ahead and do networking, and then please fill out the evaluation that is on your table underneath the profile.
I'm going to put this on. So when I ran for Congress, I like to say it was my midlife crisis. I was like, I think I just turned 40, and it was slightly more moral than having an affair, just slightly. I ran for a year. I always like to say I got the I raised $250,000. That's a big deal as a first-time candidate. I got endorsed by political groups and governmental groups. I got the endorsement of St. Louis Post-Dispatch and just got my ass kicked. I lost miserably. It was embarrassing. The good thing is I lost 25 pounds while I was running. So I'm thinking of writing a book, Run for Congress and Lose. It's as a diet book, you know. So I think there'd be some money in that. So what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we do in the Career Center, because some of you may be interested, and we might do different things than you think. And then maybe talk a little bit more generally about kind of networking and how to make the most of that. So, and I should say, last week there was I get these little email things. There was a study done by a professor at Harvard Business School who said her research shows that people actually equate networking with being physically dirty. That when you do like little studies, that they, afterwards, the words that are popping up are soap, antiseptic, things like that, that people just don't like that. And also that they find people who tend to have more power in an organization are much more comfortable with networking than people who have less power in an organization. They didn't explain why that was or anything, but I mean, I know when I talk to students, and we talk regularly about networking, they don't like the idea at all. But I think if you think about it as, we do this all the time in our lives. You know, you'll ask somebody, where's the best place to get deep dish pizza in Chicago? I'm going up there. You used to live there. Or I'm looking for somebody who could do a painting of my kids. Do you know anyone who does it? That's networking too. And the key is just, giving something back to the other person. So we'll talk more about all that. Okay, so in the Career Center, let's see if my little clicker works. At its core, this is what we do. We prepare students. So that means, one, helping them figure out what they want to do. And for some of us, that may be something that you're going through. I didn't really figure out what I wanted to do until I was probably in my early 30s. I went down this path of going to law school, being a lawyer. It was good, but it wasn't great. And then I made the switch to WashU. I think it was in 1991. I was 31 years old, and then I felt like, okay, now I get it. This is how it all works for me. And then figuring out opportunities. Students don't know what's out there. So think about it when you were in college, or even maybe now. I don't really know what most people do in most jobs. I think of my sister. She's a vice president of a bank. I've asked her, she's been doing this for 20 years. I've asked her, what do you do? Up until recently, what she did was she managed processes. I have no idea what that means. I think what she was doing was offshoring jobs, but I'm not sure. Recently, her job changed, and now she verifies processes. Once again, I have no idea what that means. I don't know how she spends her day. If she's on, I know she's on the phone, but I don't know who she's talking to, what they're talking about, what she likes about her job, or what she doesn't. And I think that's pretty common for all of us. So trying to find out more about those kind of things. The other things we do with students is, preparation skills, showing them how to do a resume, a cover letter, how to think about an interview and prepare yourself. I'm not going to do anything on resumes and stuff. I think there are books that can handle that. We will talk a little bit about how to kind of present yourself in an interview generally. The other thing we do is sell employers on Washington University. I've got a product, it's the kids here, and that's what I'm selling to employers. And I'm trying to convince them that my product, our kids, are better than the kids coming out from Harvard or Emory or UCLA. We also communicate our message, and we do that to students. One of my big challenges is getting students to come in and take advantage of our services, but also to employers, how great our students are, to parents, to you guys on campus. I'm trying to get everyone else on campus to do career advising with the students because I'm trying to leverage you guys to do my work. I'll get more done that way. Parents, I spend a lot of time talking to parents. And then the other thing we do is metrics and adjustments. So we do everything from measuring, what percentage of students are placed at this time versus the time, like last year at this time and 2 years at this time. How well prepared is each individual student? We have a metric for that. How do we know which students want to do what things? And we're who's going to our website? How long are they spending on each page? Where are they coming from? Where are they going to? And then we continue to measure that kind of stuff and then make adjustments based on it. Okay. So here's the big challenge in my job and our job. And just with those things, so you can see with the counselors, just backing up, the counselors, a lot of them are social workers or masters in counseling, but I also have people who just have particular expertise. So I have a couple of part-time people who are physicians. Students, so many of the kids are pre-med, they want to talk to a doctor. I have an electrical engineer. She doesn't have a background in counseling, but for the engineering students, she's great. A lawyer, I don't have any background in counseling really, but for all the pre-law students, I'm a great person to talk to. I know how the process works. So I have, on the counseling side, kind of more hardcore counselors, and then people who have expertise about particular industries. On the employer relations side, that's kind of sales. So I have people who are good at developing relationships and who have good follow-through. On the communications team, it's communication and events. So I have one person who kind of plans our events and two other people who do all the writing and all the big posters and the student life ads you see that we do. So I'm bringing in people from lots of different backgrounds. Plus I have a business manager who makes sure everyone gets reimbursed and that we don't get in trouble with the budget and stuff like that. Our big challenge is getting students to come in and to do this kind of self-assessment. And then the other thing, helping them figure out what they want to do because they feel like everyone else knows and they're the only one that don't. And then getting them to do this networking. I kind of call it finding your tribe. I think that's less true for those of us who are older, but I think it's very true for college students. Trying to find the people who are doing what you want. And for our undergrads, that might be, so I remember talking to this woman, she's into spiders. That's her thing. She just wants to talk to people who are also into spiders, and she can go on all day about that. For somebody else, it might be somebody who's in consulting, it might be physicians, it might be somebody who's making their living by writing, and finding those people, and that's what we talk about with the networking. But I think, like I said, it's a challenge for all of us. This networking, this figuring out how do I go to the next place in my career it's not obvious. It's not rocket science, but it's not obvious. So now I'm going to kind of switch to us. So I think the first thing we have to do is kind of do a self-assessment. And this is how I think of it. It's like 3 rings that intersect. One is what I'm good at, one is what I like, and the other one, what I'll get paid for. I said it nicer, what value do I bring, but basically, who pay me to do this? So I think of my own life. So as a lawyer, I was a very good lawyer. People pay a lot of money for good lawyers. I didn't really love being a lawyer that much, so I got 2 of the 3. I really like playing poker, to the point my wife thinks I have kind of a problem. I see those guys on TV. They make a living playing poker. I'm not that good. I can't do that. I really like to watch TV. I am an excellent TV watcher. Nobody's going to pay me money for that. So we got to figure out what these things are. And so what you're good at. It's your skills, it's your expertise, it's your knowledge that you're bringing. What are you passionate about? What do you love? When you go to a bookstore, what magazines do you kind of start leafing through? What books do you want to look at? What really turns you on? And then what value can I bring to this organization? What do they need that I can give them? And this third one, you got to kind of know the organization. So that's part of what networking will do. It help educate you what other people want. Okay, before you start kind of thinking about the next job, you got to be good at this job. And I don't want to hit this too hard, but you got to do it. So you got to be technically competent, because they're going to call your current boss to say, she's applying for us. What do you think? And so being dependable, having a good impression. I think personally, in terms of dress, you kind of want to dress for the job that you want, not the job you have. I don't need to wear a coat and tie every day, but I do. I can tell you, when I meet with parents, it makes a difference. I can come across like I know what I'm doing, and part of that is just looking this way. Yeah, I can't hit this, sorry. Even, in the summertime when we tend to be more casual, I always keep a suit in my office. I'm ready to change into that. And I think it's dressing like who you want. The positive attitude, being up on WashU, being up on your job, enjoying your job, saying you enjoy your job. Having, with the people you work with, having a positive attitude in terms of the problems that are presented. Not just coming to say, I've discovered this problem, but to say, I've discovered this problem, and I've given it some thought, and here are some things I think we could do. I don't really care if you get the right answer or not. I just like the fact that you're trying to solve the problem, and you're not just dumping a problem in my lap. And in a written product, we're all sending emails out that reflects you. So, if it's got typos in it, if you didn't capitalize, that reflects poorly on you. So taking a second look at those, making sure if it's something sensitive that you think about it for a while. I mean, for me, when I have very sensitive emails, I'll show them to other people in my office and say, tell me what you think about it. Am I coming on too hard? Does this sound too goofy? What do you think? And then integrity. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't have a reputation for being a straightforward kind of person. Okay, so let's talk about the why you want to do networking. And these are some of the big reasons. One, it'll help you focus. You're going to do this self-assessment. You're going to find out about other opportunities, and you maybe make more connections that way. But you can't do it. You can't network unless you know what you want. So that's the self-assessment, figuring out what you want. And then figuring out what other people do. What do you guys want? What are you doing all the time? So then what do you need? What kind of background do I need? So then I can get that. Or I can, when they go in and say, why do you want to work here? I can tell them why I want to work there, and it's going to link up to exactly what they're doing. You can get in front of openings. So you can find out by talking to people. We're going to do a lot of hiring in our office. We're not going to do any hiring. We're going to be doing cuts. You can find out what they need. We really need somebody who speaks Spanish. And so, I didn't know that, and I speak Spanish, so I'll start making sure that people know that. And employers are lazy. So I do a lot of hiring. I mean, we probably hire once or twice a year, I'd say. And I hate hiring because, one, it takes me away from what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be getting these kids jobs and giving reports. So I hate doing that. So this is what happens. First, I make HR do the screening, and I'm very lazy about that. And I tell them, you send me the best. So I think what I've learned from that is if you get your resume in that first week, you got a real advantage over somebody who comes in 4 weeks, because HR may do that screening in the first week or two, send me a bunch, and I say, well, that looks good enough, and I'm done. And so you may not even get in front of me by the third week. Okay, so they'll send, say, 20 or 30 resumes. So I'm still too lazy to actually look at them. So I make Amy in the office. I tell Amy, you look through all of them. You pick out the best 10. Why don't you call them on the phone? You talk to them. Whoever you think is good, why don't you bring in 6 of them, and then you and Jenny and Jim, you talk to them, see who's good, and then when it gets down to 3, then I'll talk to them. Okay, so that's how lazy I am, and I don't think I'm unusual. I think everyone else is as lazy as me. So we get down. You 3 are the finalists. So I would hire any one of the 3 of you. You're all great, but I hire Marilyn. Okay, and then up to the other 2 of you, I'm going to say, it's not you, it's us. I just don't think it's a good fit. And it's like an awkward breakup or something. I don't need this stress in my life. I hate that. So if you would come in beforehand and talk to people in the office and talk to me about your interest in working in the Career Center and this stuff, and then we have this opening, I think to myself, well, we could either go through the whole process, it's just going to take a lot of time hours, and end up with me having to make this awkward thing, or I could hire you. Now, I still got to comply with HR's rules, and I always do that, Elfrida. Just want that, because we're taping here, I always comply with the rules. But I might say, hey, make sure her resume gets through. I've met her, she's going to be good. And you're kind of, I've got you in my mind, So I think there's good reasons for doing this. Here's the other thing, and I didn't get this at all, and I always talk to the college kids about this. I never got why somebody would, when I was in college, why would somebody want to help me? What's in it for them? And I think there are definitely things in it for them. First of all, most people are nice. I mean, 98% of the people out there are nice. 2% are not so nice. We just avoid them. But most people are nice. They want to help. Everyone here would be in that group. It feels good. I like helping people. I mean, that's one of the perks of my job, is getting to talk to people and having somebody come back and tell you, you really helped me. I got a call last week from some guy I talked to 10 years ago. And he was a lawyer who didn't want to be a lawyer. He got in with A&D. Now he's got some great new position in A&D. And he was just calling to thank me again. I mean, he's like my guy for networking, because he's staying in contact with me, and I will take a bullet for this guy now, because he came back and told me, like I said, 10 years later, that I'm still having, or I've had other people tell me, you've gotten me every one of my jobs. I know that's not true, but I'm vain, just like everyone else. Yeah, tell me that. Make me feel good. I like that. It's great. So it really feels good. The other thing is, many people here are maybe more starting out in their career. I know for me, 55-year-old guy, I've got teenage kids, and they make me just feel so irrelevant. I don't know how to dress appropriately. I buy my clothes at Target because they're cheap. What do I care? I'm married. I don't need to look good or anything. Or I wear my work clothes. That's it. And I don't know what bands to listen to. When I watch Saturday Night Live, I don't know who the band is. A lot of times, I don't even know who the host is. And like back in the 70s, I had seen that band in some little club. I was cool then. And so if you, particularly you young people, are talking to me and saying, I'm interested in what you have to say, you're interesting. I'm like to my kids, see, the kids still love me. I'm down with the kids, or whatever people say. And it makes me feel really good. It makes me feel relevant. I'm getting something out of it. So you got to, making me feel good is what are the people that are helping you. And even for other people, I mean, I know what it's like to feel lost in your search. Like I said, I didn't really find my place till I was 31. And I think many of us have had that experience, and we want to help you. The other thing is, I don't get to talk about my job that much. I love my job. I think I'm really good at my job. But when I go home at night, my wife's there, and the kids, they don't want to hear about my job. They don't care. And quite frankly, I don't want to hear about my wife's jobs. As long as those paychecks keep coming, I don't really care. I got other stuff I want to talk to her about: books, music, my kids, gossip about the neighbors, stuff like that. That's interesting. But if you come to me saying, I want to hear about your job, I mean, it's an untapped reservoir of information. I can't wait to tell you why what we're doing is so cool, why we're doing it better than anyone else, why I won't tell the other people what we're doing because I don't want them to figure out what we're doing. And it's just, it's a great thing. And then this mentorship thing. Mentorship is tough because I think sometimes people don't know what it means, and I'm not sure I completely understand what it means, but I know I have people that I go to within the university to ask for advice about my professional career. And it's not people that I deal with all the time. Jim McLeod was one of those people. I would have asked him for advice. Mike Cannon, who's the general counsel, we've kind of gotten a friendship. I don't call him often because he's a really busy guy, but I'll call him once in a while and say, what do you think about this? Dan Keating, who's over at the law school who I work with. If I'm going to send something in big, I'll have Dan take a look at it. He's very good at that stuff, and he's very thoughtful, and he'll give me straight advice. I mean, I think of him more like a board of directors. They're kind of telling me, that's a goofy idea, this is a good idea, you ought to do more of this. And so those can kind of come naturally. I do know that I have some younger employees at the university who will come to me and tell me, oh, you're my mentor. And I don't know if I am or not, but I got to tell you, I like when they say that. It feels really good. It feels like I'm helping people. It's part of the being vain thing, I think. But I think most people are like me. So it's very flattering. Okay, so we kind of talked about why you want to do it and what's in it for them. So now who are you going to do it with? You got to figure people at WashU are a great place to start, because I'm assuming you want to stay at WashU. And I'm encouraging you to. That's part of the reason for this. I don't want that when we first started talking about this with Elfrida and everyone else, we don't want good people leaving because they don't know where the next path is, where the next step is. And so I think coworkers, you're on committees, so maybe that diversity event that was held Friday, the people you met with there, and we'll talk about how to do this. Some of you I know are taking classes at Ute College. Elise is representing you. Maybe you need some more training. That's a great way to do it. The sporting events, the basketball games here at WashU are it's like Power Central there. I mean, the chancellor's always there, and I'm not suggesting you're going to come up to Mark and sit down next to him and say, hey, you want to hook me up with a job? But I think there's a good group of people there, and, the basketball is exciting, but it's not that exciting, and people are kind of talking during games and stuff. I think, though, doing things that really interest you, don't force it, don't make it artificial. I know somebody who was very into sustainability, got on some committee, and that's how she got her next job. I meet the people she met through that. Outside, I think, and I know not everyone attends conferences, nor can everyone, but whether it's a speaking event where you're speaking or you go to it, just people in your community. You have neighbors probably who work at WashU. They're in very different departments. Those might be people. LinkedIn. How many people are on LinkedIn? So you should all be on LinkedIn. Here's the beauty of LinkedIn. Here's where the power comes. The power comes from connecting with people and joining groups. Then you can do searches. And so you can do a search for WashU, and you put in a keyword like communication, and then it'll pop up people. But it only pops up people that you're connected with. So you got to find these super connectors. So I would be one of these super connectors. I probably got 1,000 connections. And so that gives you more power. The one piece of advice I would give you is when you reach out to people to ask to connect with them, don't use there's a default where it just says, as a person I trust, I don't remember what it says now. Never use that. Personalize it. So it would say, Mark, we met last week. I really liked your talk. Then I'll love you for sure. I'd like to connect. I'm going to accept you. I'm like the Statue of Liberty. I take everyone. But there's some people that are more discriminating. And so having that kind of connection so you show where the connection was made. Okay. And this taking part, like I said, you want to do stuff that is meaningful for you because everyone can tell a phony, but it's also got to be useful to your network. We're not just trying to make lots of connections. We're trying to make meaningful connections. This meeting different people, and so there have been some studies, and they say most of us in our network tend to have people who are like us, like same race, same age cohort, same education level, same sex, that we tend to hang out with people like that. So you want to get out of that and meet people outside your normal group. The other thing is, at work, we tend to know people who are geographically close to us. So those of us who work in Danforth really don't know that many people at the med school, and vice versa. But even within that, so I spent 15 years at the law school. I didn't really know many of you out here in the real world. I was over in the law school. I knew everyone there, but that's it. And so making an effort to get out, I think that will really pay off for you. And you're also looking for these super connectors, these little nodes that know lots of people. And so just to kind of follow up on that, so this is more of this stuff. There's kind of the formal structure of networks. So if you looked at the Career Center, I'm at the top. There are little things coming down and people. And we're going to go to a couple of slides that show it. But there's an informal structure, and you want to find, the problem with me at the top, I'm pretty busy. I'm going to be hard to get to. But there are going to be other people that know just as many people and probably have as much influence, but are not going to be the obvious people. So you're probably, Marilyn Chill, I bet you're a super connector over in arts and sciences. Yeah, right. And then we talked about diversity and proximity, trying to get outside that. So let's just look at, I think this next one. Yeah. So this would be like how something would play. So you would think, oh, well, I could get to everyone by going to the president. But if you really look at how it works, Francis did this for me, and it's very nice looking. You got me in the middle, but really everyone knows Francis. And then you got like this Karen seems to be quite a big connector too. And those are the people. So you're trying to figure out who are these people that kind of know a lot of people, who can give you the inside scoop, who can give you kind of the entree to say, so I go to somebody saying, Marilyn suggested you might be a good person. One, I'm getting to the right person because Marilyn knows, and two, everyone respects Marilyn, so they're going to talk to me better. Okay. So here's what I think. So let's say, you part of this is you're sitting down, you're thinking, what do I want? Who do I want to try and meet with? Is it by function? Is it in a particular department or whatever? And then you're going to try and create some people. And you could talk to your friends to even come up with that. Who do I know? Maybe you make a list. And you're trying to reach out to people. I don't think, like at a basketball game, that's necessarily the time to do the meeting. I think it's to say, hey, I'm really interested. I've always been interested in the School of Social Work. I don't really know that much. Would you have time sometime, maybe just to have a cup of coffee? I'd love to talk to you more. That's what we're trying to do. At these networking events, when you go to a reception, when somebody retires, if you find one of these people you've been wanting to meet, you're not having the conversation then. You're just saying, I'd love to talk to you more. Maybe we could have lunch. Maybe we could have coffee. And I understand a lot of us, I've got a lot of control over my schedule. I know not everyone has that. So you may not be able to just go have coffee. But you can have coffee at 8 o'clock or 8:30 before work starts, or after work. Like after work doesn't work for me because I got to do the kids, but it does for some people. Lunch, we all get an hour for lunch. Maybe you could do that. And I do those kinds of meetings often. I think for somebody who has an assistant, working through the assistant is a great way to set up the meeting. So you send me an email saying, hey, it was great talking to you. I'd love to talk to you more. Here's my contact information. But if it's okay, I'll just follow up with your assistant. So that's great. I don't have to do anything. I tend to, like most people, just follow the path of least resistance. And then you call Francis. And you say to Francis, I sent Mark an email. I wanted to see if I could set up a time to meet with him. So Frances is going to say, give me your number and I'll call you back. And then Frances is going to come in to see me like she does every day. And she'll say, okay, first of all, you still haven't got me your expense report. She actually doesn't say this. This is my secretary at Brian Cave. Frances is much nicer. My secretary at Brian Cave would yell at me. You haven't done this. You need to get your time in. Come on, get going. I think we had kind of a dysfunctional thing going. But Frances would say, she would just say, I got a call from this person. Do you want to meet with them? And then I'm going to go like this because you sent me the email and I didn't get back to you. So I feel like a jerk, And I'm going to feel really guilty. And guilt is a great motivator to get people, to do what you want them to do. So I'm going to say, oh, yeah, I meant to get back to her. She was so nice. I feel terrible. Just put her on my calendar. And so then Frances will call you back and set up a time. And I just do what it says on my BlackBerry. If it says noon, talk here, that's what I do. At 1:30, talk to Rob Weil, I talk to him. And then 2 o'clock, talk to Sharon, that's what I do. I just do that until I go home, and then my wife tells me what to do. So, but if you get on my calendar, you've got me for that period of time, and you've got my full attention because you're on my calendar. So I think before the meeting, I want you kind of researching the person, their organization, the industry. You should be knowing, what are these people trying to do? What are they all about? I want you in business dressing for the job you want. I want you there on time. I mean, the worst thing, you got me for half an hour or an hour. If you're 15 minutes late, now you only got me for 15 minutes or 45 because I got something else to do. Okay, so this is big picture, and we're going to go in more detail. The first part is you're going to get the contact talking, then you're going to sell yourself, and then maybe you're going to ask for a job. That's kind of questionable, given the situation. Okay, so the first thing, we would come in and we'd shake hands. Let's shake hands. Good handshake. Good. Okay, so sometimes I get like the students, they don't do it. So you want to do firmer. Okay, I'll pick on you. Yeah, just make me feel you. Yeah, you're not going to kill me or anything. Yeah, I want a nice firm shake. Sometimes men will give women like kind of a weaker shake, and like if you did that to my wife, she would just take your head off. It's like, what, you think I can't handle this or something? So I want a nice firm handshake. You look them in the eye and you thank them. Because why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to feel good. Okay, so kiss my ass a little bit. Make me feel good, you know. This is so nice of you. I know how busy you are. I really welcome this opportunity to talk to you. This has been great. I've heard such great things about it. Lay it on. I'll believe it all. You know, I love that kind of stuff. And everyone else, like I said, I don't think I'm an outlier in the vein department. So you do that. And then you say, here's why I wanted to talk to you. You know, I've been working at WashU for 5 years. I love my job. I love my department. There's never any bad mouthing of anyone. But I'm not sure where I can go. And so I just wanted to talk to you because I really like the work you guys are doing over here, and it seems like really interesting. I wanted to find out more about what you do and how to kind of do it. So what do you see as the big challenges? So you start asking open-ended questions. What do most of your people do all day? How are you set up? What's your organization work? What are you looking for? What are your big challenges? What are your big problems? So make it all about me, so I'm telling you. And then you're going to maybe guide the conversation to other places that are doing that. So in terms of IT, who else do you think is kind of doing cool IT or communications or events management? You know, so you're trying to get some other ideas. Do you know anyone over there? Stuff like that. I should say, you know, I kind of brushed over this, but what if you have a boss who would kind of view you doing this as disloyal? So first of all, I think those bosses are very short-sighted. I mean, I got good people working in my group. I don't want any of them leaving me, but at the same time, I know there are only so many opportunities in my department, and the university is very restrictive on what I can do in terms of raises. So if somebody comes to me saying, I'm looking for the next step, personally, I would try and help them. I think most smart bosses think that way, but not everyone does. So you just kind of do it on the down low, and like I said, you're having breakfast, you're having coffee at 8, just feeling things out that way. And you can tell people, you know, this is confidential. My boss would probably get a little upset. That's perfectly okay to do. Okay, so the second part, we're going to sell ourselves. But because I'm doing like a little bait and switch. I'm telling them I'm coming to you for advice, but really, I mean, they all know what you want. You know, the analogy I always use for the students is the students think of looking for a job like applying to college. They want to fill out forms and be judged in the merit. And I always tell them that's the completely wrong way to think about looking for a job or a position. The right paradigm is dating. It's about meeting lots of people. It's about finding a good fit. I mean, you can't say, you know, like when I was in college, I couldn't say to some woman, why are you dating him instead of me? My SAT was higher than his. You should be dating me. It does not work. I speak from personal experience. But in terms of the, but it's, you know, this job thing is like the dating too, because you're a little bit, not completely bait and switch, but you know, nobody's going, when you're single and 23, you're not going to the bar really because you want a beer. You can get one of those at home. You're going to meet people and everything. Everyone knows that, but you can't talk about it too much because it comes across as weird. So same way with this. We're going to ask for advice. So maybe you pull out your resume and you say, you know, I brought a resume, but I haven't looked for a job for a while. Does this look right to you? Is this how I should be pitching myself? Is this what you're looking for when you hire people? Should I be doing this differently? You know, maybe you bring a cover letter, maybe not. And then you might ask for advice on your pitch. And so that's what I want to talk about next. So when you go out for a real interview, the way I used to think about it, and I was wrong, was I thought, well, I'm going to go in, they're going to ask me questions, I answer the questions. It's easy. But I don't think that's the way to do it. You got to have a pitch. You got to have your little story about why they should hire you. And the way you're going to develop your pitch, you go through this process. You're thinking, what does the employer want? What qualities are they looking for? Then how can I show them that I have these with examples? So you don't go in saying I'm smart and I'm hardworking, but you show them that. Just like the dating thing, you know. It was going to come out that like when I was and that was a long time ago, but I would always make sure it would come out that I worked at a daycare center, because I thought I had no idea, in terms of what the employer wanted women want, I was clueless, no idea whatsoever. But I was convinced that working at a daycare center with small children would make me seem sensitive. What do I know, But you can figure this out. You can figure out what an employer wants, and then you can show them that I have these qualities, but not by telling them I have the qualities, but by showing them. And then, we don't want to lie, but we want to be an advocate. So, this is what I say to the students. For you, it might be different, but SMART, I tell the kids, if you graduated with honors, if you were on the dean's list every semester, maybe you got your act together once and you were on the dean's list. You just say, I did great. I was on the dean's list. 1.9, I did well in school. That's all you need to say, and then you move on to the next thing. For you, it might be, I'm doing well in my job here. Maybe for hard working, let's look at that. Quantifying your hours. So maybe I'm an hourly employee. I really only work 40 hours a week because they don't want me working overtime. But there is that one time of the year when we have budgets are due, and so I work extra. So you might say, I think one of the things, I'm a hard worker at, in our office, I'm an hourly employee. I only do this, but there are the budget times where I worked up to 55 hours. Or I also, before I did this job, I worked 2 jobs where I was working 60 hours a week, something like that, to show that you're a hard worker. Here's some other qualities, that you've got a record of results pointing to things you've done, but maybe some other skills that you have. I think commitment to WashU and higher education is really important. Let's see, I'm almost. And then having somebody that I like working with. I mean, if you come and work in my office, there's a good chance I'm going to spend more time with you than with my spouse or my kids. So I better like you. And I better think, if I have to go to lunch with this person, it's not going to be like an hour of my life that I'll never get back. That I'm going to enjoy this, that you'll laugh at my jokes, I'll laugh at yours. It's going to be pleasant for me. I said you might ask for the job. I mean, most of the time you're going to be getting out in front, so there won't necessarily be a job posted. But maybe you might say, I noticed you guys had a posting for this. Do you think someone with my background would be competitive? Should I even apply for that? Or I applied to HR, but I haven't heard. Do you think I'm a good fit? And if I liked you, what I would say is, I'll get your resume and we'll take a look at it. So it can be a way to kind of pull you in the process. After the meeting, you always want to send a thank you note. Well, 1, it's the right thing to do. They're giving you their time. But 2, it's going to make you stand out from the other people. So many people do not do this. And this could be, and then you could do some follow-up, maybe with an email. I have a folder in my email account. It's called People I'm Helping. And if I would put you in there, and then if I hear of something, I would go and look at it. But if you don't do that, I'm going to forget about you. And so if you do it, I'm going to kind of remember. But it's got to be positive. It can't be like, you can't be Debbie Downer, like, oh, I went for another interview and I didn't get that one either. The whole thing feels fixed to me or something. I don't want to help you. You're too. So it's always got to be positive. I didn't get this, but I'm still confident that something will come through. I know things happen for a reason. No big deal. Something like that. Maybe you're updating with a new resume of something. I wouldn't do that all the time, though. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. I lost. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so, and then we can kind of open it up for questions. We don't have a clock in here. What time am I? Do you know? No. What is it? Oh, good, because I know some of you may have to leave at 1, so I want to make sure. Like I said, this can help you figure out what you want to do. If you know what you want to do, it can introduce you to the people that are doing you. Get you in your tribe. Get the people that you need to meet with. Like I said, people want to help you. I think it's just most people are pretty busy. And so you got to make it as easy as possible for those people to help you. And then give them something back, being appreciative, but also maybe you send them an email from time to time. I saw this article. I thought you might like it. Here's another article on Networking I saw. They had some different ideas from what you said. I would love that. And then I feel like it's a mutually beneficial relationship. You got to be sincere and interested. When I do this talk to students and I get the evaluations, there's always a couple of students who say, oh my God, I found out how sleazy the business world is. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying use people. That's not, and it won't work if you're not sincere. I mean, you're only doing this with people that genuinely interest you. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and you're wasting their time. You should be meeting with people that are kind of doing stuff that's interesting to you, that you're interested in, and talking to them. That's all we're doing here. We're not using anyone. This is not going to be direct. I mean, a lot of times the job will come from 2 or 3 levels of connection down the line. And so you just have to, it's like the dating thing. You never know when it's going to happen, and a lot of times you just feel like you're going down blind alleys, and then all of a sudden it happens. The other thing, I think it's always remember, nobody's going to give you a job because they like you. I mean, that's not enough. I like lots of people, but ultimately at work, when I'm hiring, it's about what are you going to do for me? This sounds terrible, but if you're an applicant, I don't care about you at all. All I care about, I don't care about your life. I don't care about what this job would do for you. I don't care about how this is the next step in your career progression. Screw it. I care about me. What are you going to do for me? How are you going to make my life better? Are you going to do this work that I don't want to do or I can't do? Are you going to come in and have a smile on your face and be exciting to work with and fun and make this place a better place and help us get to what we want? And that sounds terrible, but that's how it is. So you got to always make it about the other person and what you can do for them and how I can bring value to you and how I can help you and everything. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, and I'd be happy to answer questions, and then we can also maybe use the time to meet people maybe outside of people that you typically know. I think would be good. Okay, good. Okay, so anyone have any questions? Was this helpful or not really? Okay. The students seem to think it is. I mean, but they're at a different place. Like I said, I think for those students, and I think you guys get this, but I think you got 2 big challenges in your 20s. One is trying to find your life's work. That's really tough because for the kids that go here, first they think everyone else, they've been these overachievers their whole life. They think everyone else that they're going to school with is on a direct path because they all know how to talk a good game. I'm pre-med, I'm pre-law, I'm pre-this. And I remember that feeling when I was in college because I come from a blue-collar background. My dad didn't get out of high school. I didn't have any connections. I thought you could be a lawyer coming right out of college. I remember the first time somebody laughed at me when I said that in college because you got these really sophisticated kids like we have here. And so it's really easy to get psyched out. But I think, and there's not this clear path. That's what they're used to, filling out applications. And I think it's like, and the other big challenge is finding your life partner if you choose to have one. And they're not direct paths, and it's a lot of frustration. And for many people, like for me, I didn't really work out either one of them, life's work or life's partner, until I was in my early 30s. It was just, and you feel like you're lost in the woods. But I think now, when I look back, I see the path through the woods, and I think that's not uncommon. I see how it all fits together, why being a lawyer helped me, why being dean of students at the law school helped me, why these other little things I did, how they all come together and add to it. But I was never doing anything consciously. It was just kind of doing what I liked and what I thought I liked. Okay, well, let's turn it over to Elfrida then for...
I'm sure you have some questions.
No, we don't. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I think, could you talk a little bit more about the interview part of it? Because a lot of people, they put a lot into their credentials and their resume. And so when they go into the interviews, they're real formal, thinking that is the way they're supposed to be professional. So how do you move from that mindset to a more comfortable kind of engaging other person, you spend all this time with?
Right.
How do you transition?
Okay, so Cheryl was asking, how do you make this transition from these formal documents of your resume and maybe your cover letter to kind of being nice? I mean, first of all, I don't make a lot of jokes when I'm interviewing for something, or if I were interviewing, I treat it pretty seriously. But I think the keys I've seen are, the big mistakes I've seen is people just using form resumes. They use the same resume for every job. I always tailored my resume, So if I'm applying for a position in higher education, it says on my resume that at Bryan Cave, I focused on working with higher education clients. I worked a lot with WashU. I did a little work for Webster. I didn't really focus, but I could talk a good game with it. But that's going to be my pitch. If I'm trying to do something with hiring, I'm going to focus more on how much hiring I did at the law firm. That I was part of the recruitment committee or something. So you got to tailor your resume. You got to tailor your cover letter. And that doesn't mean, and the cover letter could be a couple of pages. It doesn't have to be, but I mean, you should be making connections about what you're bringing to this employer. And then I think going in with your pitch of why they should hire you. So come in and you say, "Hi, I'm Mark Smith." Let's do the handshake, right? And I know you've been talking to a lot of candidates. If you'd like, I'd be happy to tell you a little bit about myself. And then I go into my pitch. I've been working in higher education for almost 25 years, and have worked with all different aspects. And what really interests me in this job is, I'm taking control. Now they might say, whoa, I got questions I want to ask you. That's fine, but I'm still going to be kind of doing that pitch. The other thing, I think it's like, like when I ran for office, I had my little stump speech. That was my little story about why you should elect me. And it was really trying to make me seem like all your life experiences. And it was telling a story that illustrated points. That's what you want to do in the interview. And you want to practice it a lot. And you also want to be able to, like when they ask you questions or they point to something on your resume, "Oh, I see you did this." You should be able to use that and then go into one of your talking points that you want to get across. So there's going to be some times when we just talk about something, like maybe poker comes up, and so we start talking about poker. And I think it's always appropriate on your resume, maybe poker is not the best example, but to put your interest in. I don't want to look like a degenerate or something, degenerate gambler or something. But if you've got an interest, you're really into triathlons, or you're very into some kind of dance or something, putting that on the resume, because I think people tend to get excited about things like that, and I want to see you kind of turn on. That might be the part where I see but I think at the beginning, I'm making my connections between what you want and how I can give that to you. And I've been very thoughtful about it, and I've practiced it a lot. Yeah.
How do you sell like the transferable skills? Like for example, you see a job you want, you really don't have the skill set, but you have the transferable skills.
Right.
How do you
I think that's tough, because and sometimes it just works and sometimes it doesn't. Like I think Marilyn and I were talking this when I came over to work with the undergrads. Jim McLeod called me to say, "Would you like to come over here?" And I said, this was right when I got done running for office, and I said, I'm so embarrassed about it now. I said, "Jim, I got no interest at all in this job. I just got done with this campaign. All I want to do is spend time with my family." And he said, "Well, would you go to lunch and talk about it?" And I actually said, "Jim, you're a good guy. I like you. I'll go to lunch, but I'm just telling you right now, I'm not going to do it." And this is part of the charm of Jim McLeod, was that he wouldn't call you on, "God, what an idiot you are for saying stuff like this," But I was being too abrupt. So, and it worked out. So he could see the transferable skills. He could see that. Even though I'd never worked with undergrad, I would be good. But some people can do that and some can't. And sometimes, that's the other thing about these job searches or lateral moves. Ultimately, they're frustrating. Most of the time, you don't get the jobs. All of us have been rejected for jobs, I suspect. You're the rare person if you've never gotten rejected. And sometimes it's just so frustrating because you want to say, because they'll tell you the reason. It's like, well, you don't get it. I do have that. Why are you not getting that? But once they make up your mind, you can't do that. So you go on to the next one. And you're always nice about it, but it is ultimately frustrating. But you can't let that get to you, because then you look like Debbie Downer, and nobody wants to hire Debbie Downer. You always got to be up, positive, excited about life. It's hard, though. I also like to believe that when you don't get these jobs, it ultimately works out for a reason. Like when I think about not getting elected, that was like the best thing that could have happened to me. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't have my fourth child, which she's just like a delight. I don't think I'd have as strong a marriage as I do now. I think I probably would have got redistricted out, so I'd be out of a job, and I would have had a miserable experience there while I was there. So you got to believe in that. Yeah.
Can you talk
online
Yeah.
portfolio, kind of where
You mean like not putting up things that are bad, or you mean?
no, like in addition to LinkedIn, like how important are online portfolios in addition to kind of the staple things that we are seeing?
I think I don't know the answer to that. You know, I focus more on helping with people coming right out. I do know that employers all the time are looking online for your online presence and looking for problems. I mean, that is not uncommon at all to have them check your Facebook page. There are some employers now that ask you, like if you restrict it, I'm not sophisticated enough on this, but ask to make you to give them access so they can see what you're saying. I do know there are some people that are using like LinkedIn to look for prospects, and apparently headhunters are using that. I've gotten a little bit of stuff like that, but not as much, not that much. And I'm not sure what else, like what other kinds of thing. Maybe it's different for different, like, is this like more for like a faculty type position, or just you think for a regular position?
I feel like so you can put your work product out there.
Yeah.
As she was talking about transferable skills.
They can see it.
They can see it. They can, it's kind of that step between the informational and the
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't really, I don't know as much about that. But like if you were, like I know for when we're hiring somebody in the communications, I want to see their work. Now, they could give me a website, but I'd rather have them send it to me in paper so I don't have to fool with that. But I'm more old school that way. Yeah.
I recently had someone talk to me about totally deleting your online profile altogether, like Facebook, LinkedIn, because they were talking about like not having bad and good together. People who just read into your online too much. What do you think about
That seems kind of extreme to me. So the idea of deleting your entire online presence. I mean, first of all, I'm not sure even if you delete it, it's still there somewhere. And but I do think, like I'm on Facebook, but I never post anything. Partly because nothing that exciting happens to me. But I also don't want to share that much. But that's just me. But I think, they're my neighbors. Some of them, I'm kind of amazed at what they put up there and what they talk about. I don't think that's necessarily the wisest thing. LinkedIn is pretty formal. It's kind of hard to do anything really bad there, I think. But I do think people are looking at LinkedIn. And like that's one of the ways I would do my research on somebody before I go to meet them. Just know that they know that you're looking at their site. But I would expect that. If you were doing an informational interview with me, I would expect that you would check me out. And if you didn't, I would be kind of disappointed. Jim Burney, who works in my office, that's the first thing he'll ask. He's more difficult. I'm a nicer guy. He'll say, "Tell me what you know about me from LinkedIn." And so if you don't know anything, you're already digging out of a hole. He's tough. Okay, well let's turn it over to Elfrida then. Thank you.
Please help me.
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Mark.
My pleasure.
Wonderful presentation.